there's been wrongful arrests or
Oh,
tried
tons,
arrests
yeah.
of these, of like, I think one of the more outspoken ones was a lady that had to like use her own Ring camera footage to prove that she was not in an area because it couldn't determine between, I think, an O and a 0 on the license plates. And that's an issue that, again, people just aren't bringing up, or they don't know about it. And it's not a problem until it happens to you. And I think that's what at least she was trying to get at when this happened. Like,
those people, like the people who do get falsely hit, they have no political power. Like no one's going to care.
The saving grace was that they surveyed themselves. Like,
yes.
hey, officer, I actually have proof. I filmed myself being innocent, whereas your accusation was that you filmed me being guilty. Like,
and the assumption was guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and BR. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and BR is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Alrighty, gang. We are back. You are listening to the Art and More podcast. My name's BR, and I am joined by my co-host, Nathan.
Hello.
And we are once again joined by Brandon for I don't want to call these like Art and War investigates, because it's Brandon investigates. this man is like going deep. We're just we're just the idiots asking questions after he's done his research project. So Brandon, if you guys are unfamiliar with him, he joined us for the Sig 320 and further Sig kind of exploration on what was going on with all of
the
Sigcident, as well as the EOTech EGL controversy and all of that stuff. So if you haven't seen those, check those out. This time we're actually looking at something that affects everyone you know. Like, it is much more than...
this is way outside the regular normie person gun world. This is everywhere. This is probably the most serious episode we've done in a while.
So
happy to be back. Thanks for having me back.
No, thank you for all the work you do, man. So Brandon has been taking a look at what we all know as Flock, the mass surveillance system that's been going up the company, as well as essentially everything that kind of ties in with this rapidly evolving surveillance AI, like invasive surveillance state thing. I was saying to Brandon right before the show, like, I think I speaking for myself and probably Nathan too, like, a lot of us, we just want to be Luddites these days. We want to close our eyes, put our head in the sand, and ignore the technology while it's being weaponized against us, because there's too many things going on. We don't want to think about it, blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, this stuff is only getting more and more powerful, pervasive, and used. So with that, Brandon, how do you want to crack into this thing? What's your, like, what was the reason for yourself kind of deep diving this stuff? Because you kept on sharing like little bits here and there to us in our group chat, freaking me and Nathan out. But like, what was the kind of the impetus for like, okay, I need to deep dive this thing?
So I knew about these systems because they were put up in my local area.
God, I'm so sorry.
And I had seen them, and I went, okay, whatever. Kind of like everyone that looks at them, goes, what is that? Searches it. You get kind of the quick snapshot of, oh, it's a license plate reader or whatever. And then I saw them at department stores starting to pop up in
fucking what? I did not know that was a thing. Like, like I've been, slowly radicalizing myself, but I thought this was just something that, like, law enforcement.
Not on major highways, not on even side roads. These are like entrances and exits to department stores.
I fucking hate that. I feel like I'm going to be the audience surrogate for a lot of this. Like,
happy to, but
there's gonna be so much of that.
that kind of was like, okay, well, this is weird. And I started seeing a little bit more from different media sources, and the one that really kicked me into it was there's a media company called 404 Media, and they do a lot of deep research and deep investigations. Quick caveat, they their political ideations. Like they're very anti what I stand for, I would say in general. But their research.
It's funny how that works with a lot of the AI
great.
surveillance companies.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that kind of, but it branches the aisle politically speaking, where it's kind of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes, absolutely.
And they were bringing to light things that no one else was talking about. Yeah. And then I started to look more into it on my own, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So yeah, I would credit, unfortunately, or fortunately, them with kind of kickstarting some of this, that, for better or for worse, they were highlighting it, and I started to notice more and more, and here we are.
Yeah. It's it goes back to that thing where it's like privacy is a human right. It knows no politics kind of thing.
Yep.
So some of the pages that I follow are distinctly kind of not my politics, like Police the Police and Big Brother Watched UK, of all people, have been bringing a lot of my attention to some of the more dystopic aspects of this. But I find it really funny that we shit on the UK so much for their overarching surveillance scheme, and the every corner having facial immediate facial tracking and identification of everyone, and we're doing the same fucking thing here.
Well, and a lot of that too with like the US specifically geopolitically. Like I think a lot of people look at China or like the UK and they go, that doesn't happen here, and they kind of stick their head, like you said, in the sand. And the unfortunate truth is it is happening here. It's not to the same extent, but it is
yes,
at the same
not
to
the same extent yet
and then it is, but it isn't. And it's, the more you look into it, the more you start to go, what are the differences, and some of that's blurred between government agencies being quiet and things not being out in the public yet. But the more and more that I've looked into this, the more worried I am for the future, and where this is all going. So that's kind of what kickstarted this thing.
Yeah, on the topic of like Europe and stuff like that, the main thing I've been noticing in this is all of these technologies, like they can literally roll out overnight in Europe, and it's like, all right, what's your constitution say about this? Oh, that's funny. No one reads that kind of thing, so they can just roll out these technologies like super aggressively, and we've been seeing it. Like, especially in the UK, they've started to roll out a lot of like identification equipment at protests, like things that would make us like break out guns. It just happens in Europe. So it's, a message Nathan and I prattle on about on this show a lot, about how Europe, Canada, Commonwealth countries, all of that, it's the canary in the coal mine. But as we've just said, like, this is happening here right now. This is not like 5 years from now Flock is going to come to the US. Like, it is actively
it's here. I've seen them. Yeah, I've driven by some. They're mostly in Washington. I think the last time I saw one was in Spokane, but they'll be everywhere with the thing that I hate about America, which kind of happens everywhere, but it's just so blatant here, and they do it all the time, is just the greasing of palms that happens in government.
Yes.
Like the lobbying and the like, hey, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of thing. And by scratching your back, you're going to give me a massive contract to just set up AI surveillance everywhere. And we're seeing it more and more with like Palantir and all of that. Yeah.
That is something that when I looked into this, just the way that they're structured, like the money chain behind all of this is pretty interesting. It's not something that I really, really touch on in the paper, but that's definitely something that deserves its own look for people that are, they get into this and they start looking. The lobbying aspect behind it, the showboat, I guess, to get these things integrated into cities. When they go to city council meetings and whatever, in the way that they present themselves, I believe is not inherently reflective of how the product actually ends up getting used. And Flock's just not small, but it's a component of the bigger picture of where a quote unquote surveillance state is going. And versus where
gay and corporate at the same time.
Yeah, the corporate aspect of this, and like you said, the in the UK and such, the Constitution, like, obviously isn't there. They have their own rules and ways that they go. The U.S. Constitution is supposed to be the thing that gets followed, but the state and federal laws have not. I don't believe they've caught up to this, and it's not being treated the way that it could or should be, and how that happens in the background. Unfortunately, we may not know until it's too late. So
yeah.
Yep.
Just to hit one last thing on all that kind of stuff, like, I feel like throughout our lives thus far, when emerging technologies start to be adopted by the government writ large, like, it's generally been a slow rollout, a topic of conversation, like, hey, how is this going to impact our civil liberties? It's like a big kind of topic of discussion. But the way this has gone, it's so counter to how the norm of these things work, where it is a topic of discussion as these things are like in their infancy. I feel like they kind of like jumped over the wall that is the Constitution, and like you said, the Constitution's kind of, because there's nothing at least that's been immediately applied to stop this rollout. It's we're now like challenging it in retrospect.
Correct. Yep. And even then, it's only getting bigger. So, and something that I don't think a lot of people understand or realize. So, like, Flock was incorporated in 2017. This is within 10 years old. And just the scale that they've grown to so far is huge. So, yeah,
I hate that. The moment where I was like, yeah, everyone needs to fucking know about this. Like, we need to do an episode sooner than later. And kind of the like, what radicalized you moment is, I was always really against it, but recently, and I follow a page that is some insane thing an AI executive says every day, and it's just like a quick quote of like Peter Thiel or the Flock guy or whatever, and they'll say just like a sound bite. And it's always cut enough that it's like, oh, this isn't just like a line out of context. Like, there's enough context here where it's like, you're fucking insane. You need to be away from any power over other individuals. And they had the CEO of Flock calling there's a Flock camera tracker site called DFlock, and all it does is it just tracks where these cameras are. It's like free and open source information. I think that's fucking great. But on its head, like, that's very milquetoast. That's like Google Maps showing you where all the speeding cameras are. Like, that does not harm anyone on its own. And this motherfucker, this genuine fucking snake, goes on this tech podcast or whatever, and he says, yeah, these people are terrorists. These people tracking our cameras are terrorists. That is not, like, especially when he's in the position he is, words have power. Like, that is the sort of word you use to dehumanize someone before you, like, that is not just like, hey, he's an idiot, or hey, he's a snake. That is like a legal status of person where you can dehuman them, and the government can like lock them up. They can confiscate their bank accounts. They can confiscate their property. That has weight.
Strike them.
Yeah, straight up.
Indicative of things to come.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And that was my moment where I'm like, this is what these people thinks of people who value privacy. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better.
Yep.
So that and the whole Palantir open letter that they published, like, I liked it better when these companies were just like, they weren't quite umbrella corporation evil. Like, they just existed, and they were evil, and they did their lobbying and all of that shit. If they got the contract, great. If they didn't, whatever, back to the drawing board. We'll come back with, 50 million more campaign dollars for whoever. But now they're like getting into the political space. Palantir published an open letter about like, hey, this is what we view for the future of America. We're going to draft you. Everyone has service. Like, oh, well, we have a duty to support the country in going to war. It's like, since when was this okay? I don't remember companies just being able to do this.
Well, I think a lot in recent years. So like Palantir's existed for a long time, but it was used to, from what I know and from what the public understands, it was, used in the battle space overseas to assist American forces in doing their job over there. That is different than the same type of systems or systems derived from that technology being used against your own people, essentially.
Yes, very much so.
and I understand Palantir is a useful tool for the military. I get that. That
Yes.
makes that logically makes sense. But then taking those kind of tools, Flock, Palantir, whatever, and then using them against citizens of the same country that you are from, that's a new line, and I think that's really come apparent in the past couple of years. And it's been in use, but not in the public light as much as it recently has, for sure.
Yeah. And you'll see all the whenever I kind of like, I don't want to use the word confused. Like I pretty much know where I am politically. I know where I am in terms of like human rights, privacy, all of that. But whenever I want to really clarify how I feel about something, I see what the paid talking heads from the White House are doing. Like I see what the Mark Levin on Fox News. I see what these people are pushing actively as current policy. I'm like, yeah, I want to do the opposite of that, actually. One of the big things recently would be, and we're not going to go down this hole. This is like a very structured episode, but I need to get it out of my head. Like the whole bot attacks with Thomas Massey and like Flock and the war in the Middle East and all of that. Like, all right, like there is a lot of effort in creating bot accounts to basically like push this very particular narrative. Yeah, I'm going to do the opposite of this. I'm going to believe the opposite of this. Fuck you. Obviously, that can probably be weaponized against people, but I'm not quite sure where I was going with this. I guess that was just a personal anecdote.
Hey, that's part of what this is, though.
Yeah. Fuck you, Mark Levin. You're a bald piece of shit.
Yeah. So how do we want to start this? Because for caveat, for anyone who's going to jump off early, there's a 40-page document that's going to get published.
Yeah. I think fuck you, Mark Levin was a pretty good start.
So the way this document's kind of structured, and then this is kind of how the episode I think is going to be structured for the most part, but we want to go through kind of what Flock is, because I'm sure most people have a rough idea, but kind of the breadth of suite, what they actually are. I'm going to stick really lightly to security vulnerabilities and hardware flaws, just because it's interesting, and it's something that can be used. The third-party integrations, the law enforcement side of it, documented abuse, transparency failures, constitutional issues, and then the broader AI surveillance problems that I see coming forth. I think it's kind of how we're going to go through it, and we'll probably jump around quite a bit, but I would highly suggest you read through and fact check too, right? Stuff is annotated. There are sources, but the intention is to use this as a jump point for anyone who has been somewhat curious about this, to read, question it, and then go do further research.
And just for the record, guys, but when we say a 40-page document, I think Brandon's sources start at page 29. So don't worry, it's not as much reading as it sounds like. And there are sources for everything, which is incredible. So super great tool for anyone who, the person who actually sticks their head above the wall to see what's going on. Say you have your community, your training group, whatever. If you guys want to take this and kind of bring it to your people who aren't as willing to be plugged in, spread the word so people are knowledgeable about what is going on in their communities. Great tool for that. So getting into it, where do you want to start, Brandon?
I think the first thing is kind of the background, right? So for those who aren't aware or don't really have a great context to what Flock is, Flock was incorporated back in 2017. The company specifically started to kind of eliminate crime. That was their juxtaposition, and the idea behind that was some type of operating system that would enable collection and sharing of audio and situational evidence across cities and departments, specifically originally focused on automatic license plate readers, which most people should know what those are, but you drive past them. It's a camera that should only see the license plate or only document the license plate number. And then depending on what database that's hooked into, it will say, car's been stolen or reported stolen or associated with whatever. And the idea is kind of a passive scan, not inherent to storage in some sense, but I mean, those images have to go somewhere. But the idea, that was kind of the original intention. Flock's model is a little bit different. So they are a software and hardware as a service subscription model. They don't actually sell any of the hardware to whoever's using it. So it's their people that install it. It's their people who are supposed to do the maintenance on them. And it's kind of like a lease program for the city or the organization, as we'll discuss further. To basically, they pay them their subscription service. They get the cameras set up where they want them. The database section is kind of hooked in the back end, and then the login portal, if you will, is set up so that whoever has access to them can do what they want. Flock has quite a few different products now. So they have automatic license plate readers. Some of their newest stuff is the Condor surveillance system. These are panda tilt zoom cameras that are
what are the? I haven't heard of those. Are those just similar looking?
Continuous video recording and live streaming, but unlike the license plate readers, these are a full surveillance cameras that would operate with live scenes, replay, archive footage. And the idea now, there's actually there's been some updates to those systems where they're what the next one's called the Raven gunshot audio detection system. They are basically recording audio for like keywords, or like that's the idea behind the future state of them. So yeah, that could be abused. That's something that we haven't really I don't think there's been documented ways that that's been seen. But imagine a future state where, say, an administration changes and the word firearm or whatever, you say the wrong word and it flags on that and it starts recording you or your party that you're with or whatever, and you don't know about it. So yeah, that's that specific system. The gunshot audio detection, it's kind of like the shot spotter systems, if you've heard of those in places like New York, or I think Chicago has them too. Yeah. Gunshot or something goes off or some type of distressing noise, and it zones in on those. In and of itself doesn't sound like a horrible thing, but then you start thinking of how it could be used against you. Nova, that's their data integration platform. It's kind of like their database in a sense. So that has been used kind of as the lookup system. So where things kind of full back form. And it's used with they call the free form natural language search. So this is where Flock really differs, I think, from most license plate readers. So it doesn't just take a picture of the license plate. It takes a picture of the car, the scratch, the dent, the color.
Yeah. Bumper stickers.
Bumper stickers, political in nature or not. And it starts building essentially target packages based off of those systems. And then you can search the entire database for blue car, don't tread on me, license plate starts in A50 or whatever. Yeah. And it will go out and start sprawling fingers across and pull back all of those results. Anything that it has in its immediate archive. And they say it's a 30-day look back. That's something we can talk about later, but
I've seen that.
They're also moving into drones. So that's something they're calling it basically drone as automated security. They purchased Aerodome, which was a manufacturer of drones for law enforcement. And they kind of introduced their own line. And then late 2025, they had some products come to market, and it depends on how agencies use these. The way that I see that that I understand that they're doing this is there's drone nests across the city. Something happens, they can send these drones to that location, and then using thermal, it's kind of like dispatching a police helicopter, but quadcopter style or drone style,
and relatively cheaper.
Yes, much cheaper, especially with fuel prices nowadays.
Yeah.
And then there's also their agency dispatch system, which is kind of the dispatch layer integration. So routing calls across jurisdictional boundaries. But yeah, that's kind of the Flock suite of products for anyone that was just thinking, yeah, it's just a camera. Like, no, there's more stuff behind the scenes that you may not know about. Just driving past a camera system and you think, whatever, it captured my license plate. Like,
yeah, and it's also like the potential of abuse, and yes, the fact that I've now read a lot of things of this particular technology being abused directly against what Flock is saying publicly about it. Like, oh, yes, only we have access to this data, only we can, but we have YouTubers with access to just total like OSINT tools, like internet free tools to, stalk people, just as an example. Like, hey, this is everything I found out about this total stranger's life. This is everything I found out about my own life after I walked in front of one and, looked back 30 days. Some of the technology that's getting integrated into these cameras is fucking horrifying, especially the facial recognition stuff.
I really think that's where the differentiator between Flock and other systems, and this kind of gets into the later points on constitutionality and First and Fourth Amendments and the way that ties into this. But Flock does something that other systems haven't done, where it's kind of that pattern mapping of life. So let's say I go from home to work to I don't know, department store, and back home. Well, currently, those routes are all there's cameras for the Flock system everywhere in that vicinity, and it is not hard to, if you're a person of interest, to basically map that. If you have a specific vehicle, you search across, you see the timestamps. I mean, it doesn't really take a genius to figure out, okay, well, they were at work from this time to this time. This is about the time they left their house. Okay, well, they were at this camera here. Let's backtrace it to their address of record. This is the time it took. Like, you can map someone's life very, very quickly, especially the more densely populated cities that have a lot more of these cameras. There's some cities that have upwards of thousands of these things in place, mapping close to every corner of it. And you can't, and even where I live, you cannot get away from them. The farther out you go, there I've still seen them. So
do you mind sharing what state you're in?
Yeah, I'm in Missouri. So that general area, it's really concentrated towards the cities, and then outbound on the broader highways, they're out there.
I fucking hate that. I do. And the idea of all the technologies you've seen police abuse in the past, like even going back when I was young, stop and frisk in New York, and all of the stories of cops using police resources to like check up on a ex or someone that wronged them in the past. So we're already seeing that with Flock.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not just like the Flock system. It has integrations with other data sources. Like, that's kind of or it can be an integration into another data source. So you're not just entirely reliant on that system. It's what it's pointing to, or what that individual that's accessing the system has access to, and that's entirely reliant on how quote unquote smart that individual is. But generally speaking, when someone wants to find something, they're gonna find it. And that's a dangerous premise to something that doesn't really have the overarching boundaries in place that it should, like for a system like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where it's kind of the starting point for all of this.
And so, like, the way they've ruled this out, I mean, they obviously, we know with government, like, technology, if the state wants it, it's going to empower them, it's going to exist regardless. But the cover for rolling this out so aggressively everywhere has been like, and we even saw like a Super Bowl ad that was kind of in this vein, is like, hey, it's for finding stolen cars, missing kids, missing pets, right? And is that the story?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
wasn't that The Ring camera?
That was their, so that was Ring's way of like justifying their integration and relationship with Flock's system. So Flock's proposed was basically, let's have the Ring cameras use basically our software for detection. That way the cops wouldn't have to go door to door and ask people for things. And in theory, in a perfect world with no human error, okay, like I understand the logic behind it. I don't like the idea of, though, every house that has a Ring camera being accessed unfettered by someone that may or may not have a real reason to be searching through it. That is in itself dangerous. And the way that they did it with the Super Bowl ad was they used a dog as an example. Find the lost dog, and people pretty well sought through that. And there was a pretty public outcry on, this is not okay. And at least publicly, the relationship was cut off in a sense. That specific integration was dropped, and they never actually did the integration, but the proposal was pulled down. So, but the fact that it was even like, hey, let's run a Super Bowl ad on this, like it's a pretty good indication of where it's going.
They're just back to the drawing board trying to find new cover.
Yep.
This kind of goes back to like I think a lot of rich people are really, really, really out of touch. Like at best, if it's not actively malicious, these people are like, yes, this is a great technology for the peasanture. I can genuinely see a whole group. That entire idea gets through a whole board who think it's the bee's knees. No one ever says that it's a bad idea or that it infringes on people's privacy. There's a European country, I can't remember who it is, and it's like a very uncommon European W, where they've actually banned cameras facing towards the road from a house.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Switzerland.
That wouldn't surprise me if it was Switzerland.
One of the ones that still have that brains.
Yeah.
Well, and it's something like in some of the, you mentioned the YouTuber guys. So like there are Ben Jordan is one that's highlighted a lot of these problems, and basically so this kind of gets into the vulnerability side of it. Some of the initial OSINT discoveries was like, so when Flock sets these things up, what they found was either there were credentials leaked to login pages, or the login pages were just unfettered. As long as you had the IP range, you could just get to it. And that's essentially what they did, is they had no password, no nothing. And the way that he articulated it was essentially that the department or organization was responsible for the security. And Flock isn't at fault because they set it up and basically gave them the keys, but like whatever. But he found, and the other people who have looked at this found cameras like not pointed at roadways, like pointed at like children's parks. And like that's a whole nother issue on, well, why is that even set up in the first place? And from a police department standpoint, you could go, this is a gang hangout spot or whatever, but how much passive surveillance is being done, and what happens when, if in a perfect world you had a good individual adminning that, and then they leave eventually or retire or whatever, and then what happens with the next guy that has access to it? It's things that haven't come up yet, or you just leave the keys unlocked like this happened, and you're able to look at whoever comes into view.
So on top of this, one of the numbers that popped up when I was perusing the document, so this is all made to sound like it's very like innocuous, kind of the same way that, for probably decades now we've accepted license plate readers, right? And so it, like, Flock, at least at ground level, kind of presents itself as like maybe a more advanced version of that. But so we've got 90,000 connected cameras doing 20 billion scans a month.
Give or take.
This is like,
it's only going to get worse.
It's very. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that data too, for anyone who's wondering, that data is only what is known. right? So the way that the maps work, you mentioned have I been flocked or deflock, or have I been flocked, and there's flock hopper and eyes on flock. There's a bunch of different data sets trying to track these things down, but these are only the identified cameras out there so far. And people putting them on maps and going through and trying to find them. But yeah, there's over 6,000 networks. So between police departments, HOAs, department stores, private businesses that are part of the network. Yeah, I mean, and that's something else I don't think a lot of people understand is these cameras don't trigger off of a license plate. They're motion activated cameras. So that 20 billion scan, like that's where it's come from. It's every time something goes in front of it, it's clicking away. Yeah. And then it's supposed to go, is there a vehicle here? No. Delete. Well, when the security vulnerabilities, when some of them were discovered, some of those guys found basically back end storage of it doesn't actually delete these things. Like there is documented footage of these things actually turning on and taking pictures in the factory where they've been assembled. And that's way past any type of 30-day data retention policy. And maybe that's a one-off, maybe it's not, but that's not something you can just dismiss and go, whatever, it's 30 days, I'll fall off. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and the way some people have been detecting these or confirming that they're taking footage without a vehicle, you can go out and see the IR light under night vision and such. So one such like Nathan's people in Nathan's neighborhood freak out the local cops, go for a little night wander.
Yeah.
And then see if you can see any flock cameras. But
if you are
thankfully
driving,
we don't have any here yet.
If you are driving with nods or have them with you, and you see one, circle back around, turn your nods on, and you'll see it start flashing, and then go park somewhere, and then walk back in front of it. It'll go off again.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So,
What was that? And this is totally unrelated. Just a thought. What is that? The wattage, I guess, of AliExpress lasers that absolutely just wreck the sensors on these things.
I do not know off the top of my head.
It's 1,000 milliwatt plus.
But
I
do
just
know
order
that
these to your house. Yeah,
that is something overseas that's been happening.
Yeah,
there's a whole movement I think starting to pop up in the UK where people are cutting down the cameras and or destroying them with lasers, and where that may or may not happen in the US.
I think it happens here to some degree. I feel like it's underreported, but I have seen a little bit of it. People don't want to report stuff because then it turns into social movements.
Yeah,
there's certain things.
I'm starting to see smaller news, your local TV channel that needs a story to follow.
Yeah,
there's been a couple that have documented someone shot at these with a paintball gun, but they don't ever explain obviously why it's an issue.
Yeah.
It's just someone vandalized police surveillance or police license plate readers. The majority of the public looks at that and goes, "Oh, that's bad," and then they move on. Versus,
I think if people realized how invasive and pervasive this technology is, they would probably be toasting them with lasers a little more. Not that I would ever condone that. I definitely wouldn't condone going to AliExpress and just finding the most silly high voltage, probably illegal to import laser you can, and buying it for $50.
So speaking of invasiveness, that's where you kind of get into the department store side of this. So the way Flock advertises these systems to law enforcement, that's their main customer. They will sell to anyone who is essentially a business license owner, and that being HOAs, apartment complexes, businesses, schools, and the architecture behind them, from everything that has been seen, is that it's a unified backend with with asymmetric access permission. So the idea being the HOA can access their portal, but that same database, when you're searching it, is the larger network. It may not be the NICS system or something, but you're pulling in data that you probably shouldn't be. There is a really good map of, at least for the police department side, Flock Hopper. It's don'tgetflocked.com and then /network. But that specific map will show you police departments and where they're searching. So, good example of this, Kearney, Nebraska police department. They have when a search happens, it's actually going across 128 different databases, 11 mutual, 74 of them are outgoing, and then 43 incoming data feeds. So it's, you search for a car in your area, but you're pulling in data from Florida, Texas, Colorado, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Indiana. Like you're searching across the U.S. and again, this gets into constitutionality and where's the line, and also, did you need a warrant to access that information? Short answer to that is most likely not. A lot of this, the way the Flock system works is it's just an open search query, kind of like a Google, and you have to put in a reason. I've seen some of the access logs that have been provided by FOIA request, and like some of the reasoning I saw was like it's just an open field. So some of them say like FBI, like okay, like that's not really a reason. That's I'm sure you had something, but at the same time, like I don't know. The governance I don't think is there for it. So yeah, but the HOAs and the business, and I get why, like, so Lowe's, Home Depot, I think Menards may have them too. Those businesses, I think, purchase them because they're getting stuff stolen from them all the time, and they want some way of responding to it.
Yeah,
I don't think they understand how their system is being used at a broader scale, or how it could be used in the long term.
So with these like private businesses and like schools and stuff like that buying up these systems, it seems to me kind of in the same vein as like the fears people have of buying like an Alexa or something. It's people like funding a surveillance network with Flock, right? Like these big companies are just buying up Flock systems and then adding, like, they're paying for the service, but really like Flock is getting a hell of a deal because they're just proliferating their technology at the expense of the people that just want access to it, which is kind of the trade-off of like they pay for it and then they're in, right?
Yep.
Like regardless of level of access.
And it's been detail or documented that, like, so specifically with like Home Depot systems, there's a report on this, and you can go fact check me on it, but reports basically indicate that Home Depot, using Flock's system, automatically shared data with law enforcement. Specifically, it was Border Patrol, and for that they were all the immigrations enforcement stuff. That's kind of the idea behind those integrations. Well, what happens when the administration changes, or the director changes, or just the individual that has access to that system decides, this group is not my target, it's this group. There's what's to stop. And in the long term, if someone does do that and there's a review of the access or whatever, but that still didn't stop it from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a whole nother issue. But that report specifically at least shows there is some connection depending on who it is integrating. And I think a lot of that comes down to, like you download an app, right? And you just click accept all and I'll move on because you want access to the system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are you really reviewing those terms of services? And even if you do they matter in this? Those are just things that you don't know. And you have to kind of trust the company or the organization that you're doing that with inherently to say, they're not abusing my access, or they're not accessing my data that I didn't give them permission to. And that's also clearly not been shown. Like there was a I think it was a gymnastics, like gymnasium for kids, and access to those cameras. They did not give permission for Flock to access those cameras, and they were using it in like marketing, like demonstrations.
That is horrific.
Like that's,
we only know about these things because they fucked up.
Well, yeah, and someone said something, about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just you have to take those bits and pieces and then wonder, well, what, this is the 5 or 10% that we know about. What do we not know? Especially when those companies go public and they go, yeah, this didn't happen, or they try and backpedal it to where it's not as abhorrent, at least, or it's palpable in a sense, I guess would be the better way to say that. But you know better because you've read and seen documented proof that, yeah, that's not actually what happened. So
yeah.
Yeesh.
And something else like about them that I recently found this out, and I added it too because I think this is, it falls into the bigger scale of, okay, so you have police, you have private, you have business, you have whatever. There is now in the system the Convoy feature, which Convoy analyzes. It's a multi-geo search, and it allows the user to enter a license plate number and then search for cameras to find vehicles that frequently travel with that vehicle as well. So that's a whole nother side of this that, like, okay, well, if you and your buddies are, and I don't think it's being used for this right now, but like, again, if something changes in the future, and I don't think people understand that either. Well, I think our circle does, but the masses don't. Like, when the admin changes to a not as somewhat friendly, the infrastructure does not go bye-bye. It stays there, and then it gets used again. And
a lot of people don't get that. A huge amount. I remember we were going on about it with like ICE and the huge amounts of power and authority for like surveillance and funding and deployment that we've been getting over the last years. People are like, oh yeah, good. They're going to get rid of, I don't know, like all the insert whatever talking point. It's like that. This power is not going to go away after this administration. Like, at all, it's just going to get redirected.
And are there good things that can come out of that? Yes. Like, Flock has been used to solve crimes. It's been used to solve murders. Like, that, there are documented goods. But you do not make the rules based off of the 5 to 10% good. You need to take in totality of the circumstances and then the long-term effects of those things. And that's just, it's clearly not been done.
Yeah. And like a lot of things in morality, it's kind of like a sliding scale of value judgment. Like one of the things that I always see is, and there's Bill C-22 in Canada right now, which basically gives the government a backdoor into your phone or encryption or VPNs, or like it basically ends end-to-end encryption in Canada entirely. But I see all
that too.
Yep. Yeah. It's again, the Commonwealth is kind of like a window into what America's going to try in the next 5 to 10 years. So be ready for that. But I will see just either bot or boomer accounts passionately defending the idea of ending encryption and ending the idea of privacy in general. It's like, well, what do you have to worry about if you're not doing anything wrong? Like, and that's always the big one. It's like, and the worst ones I see are like, the worst ones I see are like, hey, this will help cut down on child porn. You don't support pedophiles, do you? And like and this is whatever, slippery slope fallacy, but straight up, it's the same kind of shit. It really just depends where you sit in the sliding scale. It would probably cut down on like assault and pedophilia and everything if we all had cameras in our house all of the time. Like if we all had to wear tracking like ankle bracelets and microphones that stream everything we do to the government at all times. Like, where is your line where it's okay for Big Brother to who's totally benevolent and will never use any of this technology for anything wrong? Obviously, they'd never do that. We love the government here. Where is your line of like trusting people with your personal information and allowing yourself to live in a surveillance state to cut down on that, as you said, like 5 to 10% of crime that this may reasonably, get?
And with that stuff too, if you would just deal with it, if those crimes would just be dealt with the way that they could or should be without the bloat in the justice system, like, would you have the repeats that you do? That's a whole nother thing, but yeah.
Well, and then on top of that, like, how much child abuse are these technologies going to enable? like we're just discussing with having like 24/7 eyes into like children's gymnasiums and schools, and God knows where else they're going to end up putting these things. Like, okay, how many random external parties are going to have access to our kids via these technologies? Like, okay, there is the chance of horrific things that might happen, and there's the guarantee of horrific things that will happen. Like,
well, every technology has security vulnerabilities. You're never going to get rid of them all. And with the way that AI is going and the way that that landscape is changing daily, it's a matter of time before someone. It's not a when it may happen. It's a when it happens. It will happen at some point.
Yeah.
How massive and how invasive or for how long, that's a whole different story. But like, look at just look at the past 20 years and how technology has changed. Like, I can't even count how many technology systems that have been compromised again and again and again and again, and it's going to get worse. And you can't look at any kind of system, especially something that's so public to everyday life, and go, yep, that won't happen there. Like, it already has.
Hey.
So right now I'm browsing DuckDuckGo for like how powerful a laser has to be to just fuck up a camera sensor. Now I'm just apparently like 500 milliwatts and higher. Don't quote me on this. Do your own research. Yeah.
So I was asked about, like, by people that I know, like, okay, well, if there is disruption that goes on, like are there ways to disrupt it? I'm like, sure, it's a tech system. There's ways to disrupt things, but at the same time, then how easy is it then to track that, right? You have a camera that goes down here, whether it's a laser or a Wi-Fi jam or whatever, like those things all get logged or documented somehow.
Yeah.
Unless it's mass non-compliance with things like that in a physical sense, I think it almost creates more of a target, right? You know, okay, these certain ones are going down here, and then people start tracking that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And
they take the side street where these things aren't on, like DFlock, which I like. Fantastic. I love DFlock. I really love what they're doing. I also like the idea of, toasting sensors with high-powered lasers, but, a little bit of part A, a little bit of part B.
I think long term, and this kind of gets into, what do I think long term is, but I think long term there's not a one size fits all solution for all of this. There's going to be a varying, at least globally or across the United States. I do not think that you're going to see a one size fits all solution. I think you're going to see a lot of people doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And eventually something may or may not stick.
Pushing back politically surprisingly seems to have been working very well, with a lot of outcry from various, especially politics works better, in my opinion, the smaller the scale it gets to, like city council and everything else. And a lot of law enforcement decisions are made on that level. And we're seeing pushback and flock against it. And flock cameras are being taken down in some cases.
Yep. Yeah, and contracts are getting cut. And I think a lot of that, like, that's kind of the goal with this, is to get information out there so people understand whether they agree with it or not, or you partially agree with some things or you don't think other things are as important. You need to be informed of what's going on, and then you make your judgment call there. But I would like to think in the majority case, most people do not like the idea of being tracked 24/7 for whatever the intention behind it is. And I think that's where a lot of that's winning. And you're starting to see, I forget what city council meeting it was. I want to say it was Arizona, maybe. But there was, they got a grant. Flock helped them get a grant because the city couldn't afford it. It went to vote, and basically enough people showed up and said, no, this is not happening. But then one of the city councilmen was like, oh, so we're going to just, go back to the Stone Age and, leave our phones at the city borders, and I'm going to take you back to, I think, like 1880 is what he said. And while some of that's true,
what?
like you need to be honest, right? Like, your phone is tracking you. That's a whole nother issue. But at the same time, it's not it's the same, but it's not, in the sense that, the cops in theory cannot query my license plate across every jurisdiction and everywhere that I went if I went on vacation, versus phone is supposedly behind warrants and things like that. But that's a whole different side of this.
Yeah, it's it's what his argument is like, okay, well, because there are ways to currently track you, like, let's just not limit that at all, ever. Like, doors just wide open now, man. Like, whose side are you on?
Yeah.
So on the topic of kind of like pushback and actually removing these things, while obviously like the physical pushback is kind of the most accessible thing and kind of the feel good reaction, do you know much about what happens when a flock camera gets destroyed, like when it gets vandalized?
I don't.
Yes, I'm seeing a lot of the like how-tos, because I'm kind of browsing. Like I have in one tab in front of me, I have your document. In the second tab, I have people in the UK that are actively vandalizing these things, talking about how they do it. It's like, oh, these things are just in plastic poles. You can just cut them down with a sawzall. It's like, okay, based. Yeah. They call it a sawzall because it saws all.
Yeah, I understand how the disruption works. The what happens after that, I don't know, but I do know a lot of those individuals are getting caught.
Yes.
And the disruption side of it, the physical disruption, I almost see as yes, the camera infrastructure comes down, but then the narrative gets turned into, well, they just cut it down because they don't like the police or whatever. The script gets flipped, and it's not having a positive impact, versus like we just talked about, the local small politics that get information in front of people.
Yeah. Things like deflock.
And that's not the immediate disruption that people want, or that anyone really wants. But
I do agree it's better long term.
The long term side of it, and unfortunately, fortunately, the people that are noticing this stuff sooner are generally younger.
Yeah,
it is not getting the older individuals that are currently in the seats of position to make those decisions on board. And if anything,
many such cases,
it pushes people further and further one direction. Against the intended. So I don't know specifically. I do know Flock has to come out and repair them. It's their own people, and they're spending X amount of money doing that. And there's disruptions and such like that.
So that's kind of that's kind of what I wanted to get at was from my understanding, and I've seen some people like more on the left side of things, like advocating for their destruction due to this fact, which so this is on Flock's website. After a deployment plan with designated locations and equipment has been agreed upon by both Flock and the customer, any subsequent changes to the deployment plan, reinstalls driven by a customer's request, will incur a fee per the table below. And so it starts at like $150 with existing infrastructure, all the way to advanced install $1,250. There's advanced pole replacement as a result of vandalism, theft, or damage, $2,000.
And unfortunately, that's all going to be taxpayer money too, regardless if infrastructure is destroyed, or taken down. Or even the solicitation to some extent, like the one that we were just talking about what I think is, if I remember right, is Arizona. They had to pay to get out of the quote unquote contract, or if there was some type of fee they were going to incur, even though they hadn't really even gotten the infrastructure. They were saying like, this is still going to cost us, I think it was like $12,000 or something. That's a whole nother thing too, is I hate seeing money wasted, regardless of, like, it's just I do not like seeing money wasted.
It's money that could be going right back into our communities. Like, it's taken out of our communities' pockets. Okay, in good citizen taxpayer land, like, okay, well, I want that to go towards my kids, towards our safety, towards emergency services, what may have you. Now, depending on like your jurisdiction and how much they have allotted for things like vandalism and stuff, what has been, kind of the theory of the vandalism route is like, okay, can you break the budget of a jurisdiction with vandalism? And so that's, not saying pro, not saying con, but that is kind of one of those things that is being discussed, is like, how many times are they going to be willing to replace these cameras? And you saw it with in London in particular, in the UK. I don't know if it was Flock they were using for these cameras, but there's like a metro surcharge for like emissions and shit. That's what all of that vandalism started as, was there was a surcharge whenever you pass by these cameras just for driving in like central London. And so people were cutting these things down, hoping that it would get to a point where it was so expensive to replace these things they would just stop.
The way that I've seen this kind of stuff play out in the past is when the immediate response is kinetic, the long-term effects are not favorable to whatever that that ideology or specific thought process is. It does the opposite in some sense, and sometimes it succeeds, right? But
I think multiple ways of it. I agree with you that it's. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I really think that long term, you're going to see a lot of things get thrown at these kind of systems, and you're only going to see a few things stick. What that ends up being, I don't know.
I mean, at the highest levels, you're proving that there is like a crime problem or something, or like that there is kind of dissenting problematic behavior that needs to be monitored with these systems. So like, okay, maybe you start with like a 12-foot Flock camera pole, and then that gets vandalized a couple times, and like, okay, well, next time we're going to put it in a place that you cannot readily access. And we're going to put more of them up. We're going to have cameras like monitoring each other, that kind of shit. So it's a dicey game.
Yeah. I think a couple of ways around it. I'm inclined to agree, especially the state. Like, I think my feelings could be summed up by the really old saying, like ballot box, jury box, cartridge box, if that makes any sense. Like, but obviously, like, less the bullet and more the civil disobedience end. If I lived somewhere like England and I was younger, or one of those situations where it's like the political solutions are not working and have not worked, and you are living in basically, the Citadel from Half-Life 2 at this point, I would probably consider, and whether it works or not, and if it's efficacious, it's kind of up for debate. But I think at that point, more kinetic civil disobedience may be warranted. We're not at that stage. Hopefully we'll never get to that stage. Obviously this is in the the fantasy novel that I'm writing in my head. I would never suggest anyone does any sort of kinetic civil disobedience ever. I love the government and also Flock and Palantir, but I would understand why in a place like England, or a place where it's like, oh, well, we don't actually have any political power anyways. The 55 years and older have, controlled every aspect of our life, and this isn't going anywhere. Or like, look at the AI data center where, like the entire population of the town shows up against it and the city council votes for it unanimously anyways. That might be a situation where it's like, all right, well, one aspect of civil disobedience, well, like civil obedience, like we try to do this by the book. Maybe we start exploring other measures to show our discontent. But it's kind of like that thing where it's like no one wants to fire first, like the first proverbial bullet. Because, like, as you said, if it's only a couple of people, if it's not a mass movement of, one, you don't really win that war of attrition, and two, you create propaganda against yourself. Now, if it's, so many people, they really can't deal with it, and it's being done, and the information to do so kind of safely is being proliferated, because I do stand by the fact that a lot of crime, and, obviously, again, we're talking about Flock, which is an exception to this, but a lot of crime prevention measures are kind of done to catch and police the lowest common denominator. So if you are a little bit smart about your civil disobedience, you can go very far.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're headed right now in this stage is,
yes,
I think the U.S. is in a particularly, it's not good, but a quote unquote good spot where this is past infancy stage, but it is still in the toddler stage. It is not the same jurisdictionally or invasively that it could be, like if you consider China as the farthest extreme this can go.
Yeah.
We're not, I don't believe we are there in a sense.
Yeah.
I do see that's where things are headed.
Yeah.
And I think that right now there are other methods that are working.
Yes.
But I mean, that can all change too. So
yeah.
unfortunately,
ballot
and that's
box,
part of that's part of why getting this information out there to people is important, because you need to be not just see it, but you need to understand what's going on. And the more people that understand, the more people that stand up, and that seems to be working so far. But
yes.
Again, we'll see in the next couple of years.
But
we're doing. I'm cautiously optimistic, and that's part of the reason for this episode. Like, I do think people need to know a lot more about it.
Yeah. And outside of the technology, like, so we've kind of mentioned it here in passing, but like the documented questionable uses and abuse, that's we've mentioned a couple, but like, surveillance of protesters, okay, that gets into really First Amendment and Fourth Amendment kind of things of, are you pattern tracking individuals? The recent protests in the US for certain things, like obviously I don't agree with some. There's some things that I look at and go, whatever. In the long term, like I don't care, but that's your right. You can do what you want as long as you're not rioting and destroying cities. Have fun. But surveilling those groups and then basically setting the precedent that yes, it's okay to do that, and then track people based off of those patterns. That's an issue for the long term, and how that can be weaponized against. You may not be the group, or you may think that group is evil or whatever. But like we said, when whoever's doing it changes, then what? It just and then outside of that, with at least Flock systems, you can free-form search for different terms. Like there's documented using search terms for different ethnic groups. That's a thing for sure. There's also the one that, and this isn't to say abortion's right or wrong one way or the other. I personally am not. I do not think abortion is right, but that's this. In Texas, they searched for. There was a nationwide search for had an abortion, search for female, and that search queried over 6,800 networks, and it accessed over 80,000 cameras, and it was used. It was Flock's infrastructure being used against someone for a specific action that was illegal in one state, but legal in others. And that's the portion that I think is important, because whether you think abortion's right or wrong, when does that get used against the certain thing that you're a part of, and how dangerous that can be? I mean, just change that to had a "Don't tread on me" sticker and was male, or whatever your search term is.
Has a concealed carry license.
Or has a Glock sticker on the back of truck, like that. Those kind of things, that enabling of tracking of specific accusations related to a specific action that's considered lawful in different jurisdictions. It's not really something that's been talked about, and it's another data point for people to look at and go, are you comfortable with someone having this level of access to your personalized information that you did not, quote unquote, consent to having collected?
No. Sorry.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and I get, like, you're in public, but
yeah, like on the topic of that, because I mean, to be documented as like, oh, I've got like I don't know, some like 2A absolutist kind of sticker on the back of my truck, that's pretty easy to identify, and then be like, okay, this person fits into potential militia group. But for the term that they were searching, like had an abortion, like, do you know how the fuck they're going to have that information? Like, is that someone that is pulled up to I don't know if you looked into this, but it seems like that is pretty deep information beyond, like, women aren't putting, like, well, some of them are, but yeah, you're not gonna have that plastered on the back window of your car.
Yeah, that's generally like a medical.
And I think some of that comes down to, at least with Flock's system, I think some of that would be, actually that's kind of what I was hoping, or I think they were hoping they would catch, is someone's got a pro or anti-abortion sticker or something like that. But yeah, like you said, it's so ambiguous. How do you know?
They've been filmed outside of Planned Parenthood a bunch of times or something.
And I think that's probably where it actually came from. Is they probably looked at records and went, okay, well, this vehicle went here, here, and here. We think they went to a Planned Parenthood or whatever. Like, it gets really dicey really, really quick, whether you agree with the premise of what that search was for or not. How it could be used and abused beyond that is just, it's terrifying, really. Realistically, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the second you give that system like a little bit more juice, like right now we are in like soft launch Orwellian state, like, we're talking about with the Ring camera ad and stuff like that. Like, they're trying to sell it to us to a degree. Like, they're gonna roll it out regardless, but they're still trying to like kind of whitewash it. But if we truly went like full scale fascist government, how long does it take before you plug in medical records to a system like Flock?
Yep.
You plug in service records. You plug in,
and realistically, that's not
details.
Like, that's not hard. Like, it's a database plug-in. And it's just the right people that know how that tech stack works. Or you just have people at Flock or Palantir or whatever just go, yep, we'll take care of it and we'll hook it up for you.
Yeah.
And you've already seen some of, like, at least on, and again, still in the documented issues area, like, there's been wrongful arrests or tried arrests of these, of like, I think one of the more outspoken ones was a lady that had to like use her own Ring camera footage to prove that she was not in an area because it couldn't determine between, I think, an O and a 0 on the license plates. And that's an issue that, again, people just aren't bringing up, or they don't know about it. And it's not a problem until it happens to you. And I think that's what at least she was trying to get at when this happened.
And those people, like the people who do get falsely hit, they have no political power. Like, no one's going to care.
No, the saving grace was that they surveyed themselves. Like, hey, officer, I actually have proof. I filmed myself being innocent, whereas your accusation was that you filmed me being guilty. Like,
and the assumption was guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty.
I see it happen all the time in the UK. I'm subscribed to a page that shows people who are arrested for faults in facial recognition algorithms or things like that.
Yeah, and this gets into the transparency issue, right? So Flock recently, they had some guidance to a California department, and I'll read the quote, but basically it was on. They were talking about FOIA requests, which is the Freedom of Information Act. The idea is if it's not classified or some type of sensitive intelligence, like, China's going to attack here and now, like that kind of a thing. Those records are available for public records requests, and FOIA, the FOIA request, like Flock falls into that. They should be allowed to be queried from. And in this email chain back and forth, they basically said, however, if you find your department's users are not consistently searching off of or indicate case numbers, that may be a reason to hide the search audit. It's entirely up to you, but it's just something we'd like to point out. In that little bit, they say, but it'd just like to point this out. Like, the idea that, people are trying to hide searches or obscure them for FOIA requests, or just straight out like denying audit logs or FOIA requests. There's been a couple, I think it was in Georgia recently, where departments are like, yeah, we're not doing this. Like that is not, that unchecked power right now. It can be talked about and dealt with, but who knows in the future. And if the right people in Congress decided, nope, these are all exempt, that's a whole nother discussion. But
it really doesn't take much to take it from what is currently like a just about possible technology to the genuine, like, we throw around 1984 like nothing, but like this is it.
Yeah, this is it. I recently reread the book because I thought it was a good frame of reference to have in mind of, total evil end state. And it's unfortunate how many parallels there are to what should be a work of fiction, and a warning versus what's actually happening. And then you see that too in, we talked about it a little bit before, but like the Have I Been Flocked takedown attempt, like Flock took legal action to try and pull down public databases or public records of their readers. Like I think that's indicative of where the company stands on things like that. That, the transparency is not even for, like, they have a transparency portal. Well, guess what? Every technology company has something like that to some extent. But I don't like that premise, and I don't like the way they did it. Right? You mentioned them going after individuals and trying to classify people. That's, again, it's an issue, and it's something that people need to know about.
Yeah, it's getting into this weird space of like it. I mean, to start with, it's completely un-American. Like that's not like an American company's mentality. Like a company founded within America that shares like this country's ideals. It's like this like horrible parasitic corporation entity that's just like no, like we aren't based in any of those beliefs at all.
Yep.
We know our purpose, and it shares nothing in common with the average citizens of this country. And we're going to have touch points on all of these citizens' lives without like any kind of common ideology.
Yeah, and you really get into the constitutionality of this kind of stuff. And like you said, if the companies aren't truly sharing a unified basis of where they come from, of, we care about this, and you can say what you want publicly, but your actions speak differently. That's a whole nother side of this that I don't think the laws have caught up to that at all. Clearly, like the Fourth Amendment specifically says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, in particular describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And what I've seen judicially, how they've said this is, it's passive, right? But the pattern of life aspect is not brought into this at all. That, you can query basically and figure out who someone is based off of this information, and just this information. And it's not hidden behind a warrant process or any due process of real review.
It's an entity that treats American ideals like a obstacle, not a foundational thing to spring from, which should be troubling to everyone. But of course, with their international aspirations, like it's obviously far beyond having any kind of basis in a constitution or like the common good.
Yeah, and it really gets into the broader issues of that, of like, it's a private company, it's not the government, so there are different rule sets to that. Currently there's an absence of some type of framework. We're in a whole new space, and bits and pieces are getting challenged here and there, but there's not been a this is okay, this is not okay topic that's been discussed, at least at a federal level. Because in some part, right, the federal government's using it and they like it, and that's dangerous. It's dangerous to leave anything like that unchecked by any level of government.
Yeah.
Where to next, gents? I'm looking at our notes. I mean, these things are vulnerable. We've touched on it a little bit, but the physical hardware, like the physical cameras and such, like roadside units, they are within the realms of being exploited, right?
Yes. Yep. And they have been, and it's been documented.
That's crazy.
Ben Jordan's if you want to watch a YouTube video on it, and he'll explain it in a much more technical level than I'm going to cover here. But yes, they have been exploited. a lot of those have been cleaned up, but as time goes on, new vulnerabilities will be discovered, and they'll be accessed again. Like that's just kind of how tech ends up working.
Yeah.
The roadside units have been exploited. The back end infrastructure has been seen. 404 Media has got some pretty good coverage on what that ends up looking like, and kind of the like some of the ones that they got access to. I don't remember which individual group got access to them, but I mean you had full admin rights to where you could delete footage and things like that, and that is. I'll clarify that is very, very much illegal, and you will go to prison for a very long time if you do that. But like that's the level of access individuals had at that point in time before things like that were remediated. And for research or malicious intention, I mean that's the thing. You don't know how long they were exposed beforehand, before someone got access to them that should or shouldn't.
And so like these vulnerabilities have been exploited in the past, and like you said, they'll be exploited again in the future. Like, how are we going to have a system that is deciding people's entire fates on something that is so vulnerable? I mean, this like Flock is, I'm sure, already being used in court cases, right?
Yeah, I don't know, and no one's going to know, at least on the vulnerability front, until it happens, the extent of the damage. This is just, it's not like your search or your search history got revealed and like, someone knows something about you. This is your location data. This is where you live and where you go and what you frequent, and what you are associated with, regardless of political ideology. That it's a different, to me at least, it's a different level of information that government and or possibly malicious individuals can get access to, and it can be exploited or used for good, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be privy to that information until it happens.
And then in kind of a similar vein, data inconsistencies. So I see within here, Oakland PD doing a press release claiming a spike in crime clearance. It turned out to be an error in their database. So they're just like, everyone's getting lazy. We know this, but like they're just taking information from these systems at face value and going, oh yeah, this is fixing crime, which turns out to be completely false. Probably by the time they made a press release, like they're already deciding on how that impacts department policing and such.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is, there's an old adage, numbers can say whatever you want them to say, depending on how you look at data and who's reviewing that. If there's not, if you are the authority and no one above you or below you is questioning it, you can make numbers say what you want as long as you control that data set. And in theory, right, in a perfect world that doesn't happen, but that doesn't take into the effect the human element in all of this.
Yeah, and I mean, we've on the foreign side of things, like in the Iran war, the Palantir targeting. The way I've heard that explained is like, it correlates all of this data, and then sure, it's collected by AI, but it's signed off by a human. Okay, so it's literally like AI work with a human signature attached to it, and then it's good to go. And that's how we end up with a children's school being bombed because it's like 10-year-old data on it being a military installation.
Yeah, and it totally depends on who's reviewing. It's almost, to some extent, the human intervention or lack thereof can be the weakest link, but it's also, unfortunately, the deciding factor in things that have real world consequences. And if you don't have good people, and you will never always have good people with good intentions in those positions, that human history has shown that for forever. It doesn't matter where they are, what nationality or what government. There are people across the globe that have, from all of time immemorial, that have been good and bad in positions of power, and their abuse has varied across all sorts of that. So.
Yeah, occasionally I will Google something that I know at least a little bit about, and the Google AI, which obviously isn't, the Palantir AI or anything like that, but I assume everything is gay and dumb and all technology has holes in it. And the amount of times that I saw something the other day where it's like AI is going to make a lot of people feel like they know a lot about different, very like niche subjects, like sort of like your brain becomes like a lot of shallow holes, and each of those holes is filled with like a tidbit that may or may not be right from ChatGPT, versus someone who actually like hyper specializes. So if I ever search something about something I know a lot about, for example, and I think I said this before, like a bufferless upper for an AR-15. Like I'm just using that as an example because that's the one thing that I remember searching of dozens and dozens of things that I've searched, that Google AI gave me a confidently wrong answer for. Like something that was so absolutely just off the cuff, confidently wrong. And then I think about that technology and the holes in it, and the very AI tendency to not really admit when it's wrong or it doesn't know things, but instead give like a confident answer that is very, very not correct. Or another time where I told someone about a country singer from my hometown, and he messages back saying, "Hey, Google said that this was a character in the Trailer Park Boys. Like the AI said that this person does not exist. They're a cartoon character from the animated Trailer Park Boys series." It's like, no, like this is just a dude. Like he lives in my hometown. Like he has constant. Like let me fact check that for you. He's never been on the Trailer Park Boys. He's not like this is a real man. And then I think about this technology being responsible for bombing schools and like killing kids. Like that is. It's like, oh, sorry, I didn't, like, I was operating within the guardrails of my system. Let me fix that for you. And in the meantime, like the school is razed to the ground.
And not all systems are created equal, but there's all. This stuff is so new and it's being adopted so quickly that there's not. Unfortunately, we don't know what we don't know so far, and that's again why people need to look into this. This is not meant like this episode. This document is not meant to be the end all be all. This is meant to be the jumping point for individuals to look at and go, I don't like where this is going. Let me research it, make sure that the information presented to me was accurate, and then let me do my own to validate and then move forward and hopefully make some change in the future. And I think some of that with like, the AI data centers and stuff that are, you're seeing a lot of that pushback start popping up of, we don't want things that reduce our natural resources to zero. Like that is not a good thing. Infrastructure is important. It does not come at the cost of this or things like that in the future. So
it's kind of crazy how the attitude to technology has changed. At least from like the decision maker angle, it seems like we just kind of suffer being experimented on these days. It's like this, now Department of War's like mentality of like we have to get the best tools the quickest and like implement them as soon as possible is now.
Yeah.
Like
what if China wins?
Well, it's like, okay, sure, you can argue that when you're engaged in conflict with like foreign adversaries, but it's the exact same implementation like domestically. We see the exact same attitude applied where it's like, let's just throw this into the mix. Let's experiment on our countrymen like day one.
It's passively to the entirety of the civilization versus the known, documented, like foreign terrorist organizations that are operating or whatever issues that generally speaking, most people would look at and go like, yeah, no, that's a problem. Yeah. If it's being assigned to the mass of society and then they don't get a say in it, that's yikes.
Yeah. So, and that seems to just be treated as the norm now. Like, and we have to push back on it. Like when ground is already broken, when these tools are already in the hands of people and they're looking to bring more. That is the point where the public just about is able to become aware of their existence.
Yep. Yeah, I really think that and I put this in my conclusion on this, but I really think that at its core, at least Flock specifically, the dilemma the citizenry is trying to solve is how much personal privacy the individual is prepared to sacrifice for a sense of security. And there's a fundamental tension between those two things. Automated surveillance shifts the balance in ways that are inimical to American culture and society, and it changes the relationship between the citizen and the government in ways that once normalized or are being normalized are very difficult to reverse, and they may not happen either. So while this is still semi-young, but it's out there, people need to know about it. So yeah, I think that's really the gist of it on Flock. I would really encourage, read through, go research on your own the Flock stuff specifically. Be aware of what's in your area. Use the resources that some of the ones that I highlighted, and if you find others, I mean, share them with people, right? If you find cameras and you know about them, like there are ways to report those kind of things to the larger data sets that are keeping track of these. Be involved in your local community, know what's going on. If your HOA is looking at these, like you need to probably go attend those meetings and understand what they're trying to do, and if there are other options around that, or if you can show them, hey, you have not considered X, Y, and Z, and start pushing those kind of things. But yeah, just be informed, and be open to learning about it.
And something to add into that, like if you're going to these public meetings, I think it's very easy for all of us to be the crazy tinfoil hat prepper dude in the room. These issues are something that's going to impact anyone regardless of politics. So
Yep.
in combating these things, like depending on your area, depending on your community, like don't necessarily bring the costume of the crazy prepper guy. Like maybe come in, be as regular as anyone who is associated with this show can be. Come in level-headed and hit it for like the issues that are going to impact everyone.
Yep. And your articulation matters.
Yes.
Because it will get people on your side, or it will have people just rebel against it out of human nature.
Yeah.
So with that, we want to talk about other surveillance methods to research.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the one where I think Nathan's going to scream.
Oh God, you know me well.
So these are things that I think people should research. These are things that I have looked at and into. I am not going to write papers on any of these because there are research papers linked. I am not. This is just something that people need to, again, be aware of. But I think drone and thermal, like how that's being used, if Flock's got it, your police departments have it or are getting it. That's something that I've seen numerous YouTubers talk about and stuff like that. Like that, I think that one's a little more common. Facial recognition, how that's being used and integrated into data sets. There was a company that basically was building out entire profiles that you were able to search. You could pull back, and the data sets that they were tied into were like data brokers, right? So they had, okay, well, this is first name, last name, address of record, all the addresses that we have on file. It would pull from every social media, all that kind of stuff. Social media intelligence, like that's a thing now. Your social media presence can be mapped everywhere. And there are open source tools and closed source tools that are for purchase that do that very well. And essentially you can try to hide, and you can to some extent, but the attribution out there is a real thing. So just, it's things to be aware of. This is where it starts getting really funky. So like geospatial image recognition and attribution. So there are commercial and free surveillance techniques out there now where you can take specific sections of a picture and it will tell you approximately where that picture was taken. And it's getting so accurate to where I've seen tests of this stuff, and it will tell me, like, it'll pinpoint the Google Street View of where the picture was taken and drop you on the map. And then you get to compare and go, yeah, that's it. that one is really when you take that and you start aggregating that data across. So let's say you have, your Flock stuff, your social media stuff, and you think that they're in this general geographic region, and then you start pulling in this other information. There's real ways that can be abused.
I mean, like so quickly. If people don't take anything else from this home, like just think about your wives, your girlfriend, your mother. Like she's out at like a cafe or something with your kid. Like you're at work, you're doing something else. You're distant from her. Or a friend that has a stalker. Anything. You post a picture at a cafe. Oh, posted like 10 minutes ago. I bet they're still there.
Yep.
Like it doesn't take anything to track this stuff down.
And if someone has the actual raw image file, and there are ways sometimes those can get leaked or inadvertently put, like there is location data in image files that can be recovered depending on configurations and such. So this is where it starts to get really fun, and maybe Nathan will scream a little, but
maybe.
So acoustic microphone surveillance. This is something that I kind of stumbled across, but
fucking so like what?
What? So microphone surveillance. This is the idea of you're collecting audio, and like directional, parabolic, those like your 60s spy with the holding the thing up and collecting audio, like the James Bond kind of stuff. That's kind of always been around, and people have used that. The idea that you can use an infrared laser as a microphone and point it at something and get the audio signals back from that. Like those technologies are there. One I did not know about that I thought was really interesting is there's research that has been done, and it has been proven that you can take high-speed camera vibration and reconstruct sound from those cameras. So you don't even have to hear it. If the camera is pointed, they can basically map and get back a pretty decent audio signature, and then use other systems to then enhance that and get like you can listen to someone without actually ever hearing them. And there's a lot of math involved and a lot of different ways to do that. But the research is out there, and it's becoming a real thing, and it's been reconstructed in the wild with not government or research-backed money.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw another one about using Wi-Fi to map people in a house.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that one.
Oh no,
Yeah. So again, with acoustic, LiDAR is also being used to map movement, and then take those shapes from LiDAR and then reconstruct audio from that. That's a whole nother issue. So that's kind of the acoustic side. Cell signal and IMSI. So that is like your phone jumping from tower to tower. That is not something. So like I see people talk about like Graphene OS and making your phone more secure. And yes, like that's a thing. There are certain parts of just using a phone that just cannot be really taken away. And you have to talk to the network somehow. There are ways to identify that. The geolocation data combined with everything else, if you become an issue like that, those are real problems that could be abused in the future. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wi-Fi. So like Nathan just said, there's research on it. Started back in like December of 22. There's a paper that I pulled this morning, actually, that came out like within the past couple days, of using Wi-Fi routers and signals in the home to map everything inside of an enclosed space.
I hate that so much.
You want to know something funny? Xfinity, the network, actually uses this as a free enrollment system. It's called Xfinity Wi-Fi Motion, but it's like a security system that you can enable to detect motion inside of your home. And I don't know. I have not looked into it, but my guess would be that some of that data is being used to train models and such like that to make the systems better, because it makes sense. Like if it's a free add-on, the person is the product to some extent.
Yep.
But yeah, Wi-Fi dense pose is what it's called. But the idea in the past was you had to have certain infrastructure in place outside of just the Wi-Fi router to basically bounce signals, and it's kind of like sonar or Caleb, or yeah, he's gonna kill me, but whatever Batman movie that is, where it's the Joker and you see all of the pulsating, like that. That's kind of what this is using sonar, or quote unquote sonar, to map the interior, and it's gotten so good that you can identify people, and you can actually target them based on how they walk. You could tell the difference between individuals.
Yeah, the gait recognition is a real thing now.
Yep. So that is a thing, and then on top of that, so like DAS via fiber optic lines, like it's becoming a thing with fiber optic, and when a car drives over a fiber optic line, the light transfers differently, and you can measure that, and there are models that are there's research behind that. And then when you get into more of the firearm space, like I've seen people talk about it, but you have your radio detection direction findings, and there are tools that you can basically, as soon as you plug them into an SDR, and as soon as if you have it configured correctly, you're scanning across the network, and a radio signal goes off, and it gives you turn-by-turn directions to where that kind of originated from, and you have an idea of where someone might be based off of a radio key.
Oh, we did that in North Carolina with the Carolina
with the boys. Yes,
yeah, the boys.
Yeah, and that's a real thing when it comes to well, I want to get off the grid, or I want to be away from all this, like outside, and even then, like outside of smoke signals, what are you going to use? Like technology is not, it is a tool, but it can also be used against you.
Yeah.
And then you get into like AI firearm detection, and then that's something that I think is really starting to pop up, using thermal, visual, and Wi-Fi signal-based things to detect firearms. And the way that it's being that people are being advertised to is it's to protect schools and that, and I get that. But what happens when those systems get purchased by an administration that's not friendly to firearms, and then they go up in every major city, and now it's used to detect concealed carry because that's not permissible where you live, or whatever, or other things like that. That's a whole nother issue of where this stuff can go. And then you get into the aggregator tools like Palantir's Gotham, the Elite tool, and Flox Nova, these aggregators that are collecting data from all of these different systems and putting it in a nice pretty map and making it all accessible in a single pane. It's hard to read through these things and envision 5 to 10 to 20 years from now what they could be used for, but it's things that people may or may not know about, and you need to be aware that these are out there, and if they are being potentially used, the pros, the cons, and the abuse side of it as well. Like you just need to be informed, and it sucks to think about, but
yeah, it's kind of how we open this episode. Is like, this is not fun, cool stuff to discuss. It's but it is reality. Like, I think so many of us, we want to be left alone. We don't want this stuff to be infringing on us. But the reality is, like, whether this administration has a problem with it or not, the second this technology gets folded in and accepted, like, it doesn't matter who's in charge. Like, they're going to use this stuff.
Yep.
That people might put up some kind of like mock, like, oh no, well, your constitutional rights. The second that stuff is folded into their toolkit, they're going to be using it.
Yep. Regardless of who's in power. I mean, and like we said earlier, that the overarching may be in your favor or not, but there will be people that do not care, and they have access to certain things, and they go the total opposite direction, and both innocent and guilty individuals can come about from that. But it's just
yeah, the definition of terrorist has just been altered pretty drastically also, per Homeland Security's legal usage.
Yeah, I mean, look at the past like 5 administrations. Everyone's kind of got a different definition, and it seems like things flip every 4 years or 6 years, quote unquote. And I just don't see that as being sustainable long term with systems like these being adopted and hoping that they're used correctly. Like, I just think that's a false premise to go with it. You know, everyone's got my best interest in mind, and it's never going to get used. Because clearly, even just with the flock system, it's not that. That's not the case.
Yeah. Now, I kind of I broached the subject earlier, like on you know, Flock clearly not being founded on American principles. Are they an American company?
Yes. Yep. They were started in Georgia.
Huh.
Yep. Started back in 2017 in Georgia.
That is a
horrific. Just because you're from the U.S. doesn't mean you actually believe in the values and
oh God, no, God.
the founding of this country. And you can be from afar and totally believe in them. And that's I don't think just because you were born here means that you inherently care either. And that's clear by just opening up social media.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's disheartening. I was like, can we blame this one on some foreign nation? Nope.
Yeah, nope. Like it'd be one thing if it was the company was owned in like the UK, and it would be like, oh, this makes sense now. Like, okay, I get all of it. But no, you know,
nope.
It's
Flock, Palantir, they're both American companies. A lot of the other AI surveillance companies that are coming about, a large majority of them are U.S. based. And
I do think like the demographic that attracts AI bros and finance bros put together, which generally gets your average AI CEO, isn't one that aligns particularly with the idea of freedom or the Constitution or anything like that. Like the idea of normally it attracts the worst kinds of people is what I'm trying to say.
And both sides of that, that group of individuals are from both sides of the political aisle, and they have both. A lot of them have very different ways of interpreting things, and that's where you get this mismatch. But it doesn't matter what the founder of said tech company is; it's in how they're being used, and they're being used in ways that, you know, said person likes or said person doesn't like. Like, it's a tool. And yeah, I think like when Flock started, if I remember right, the founder had like a package stolen, and he was like, if there was only a way that we could like search, like there was, you know, quote unquote innocent beginnings, but just what that can explode into is well, here we are.
Yeah. Now I don't want to ask anything like too doom and gloom to wrap it up, but you know, we've discussed how like this stuff has just been rolled out. It simply exists now. Should society at large find any kind of, you know, constitutional problems with this, which I think we can all see that there has to be some, is there any way this stuff gets rolled back to I mean I kind of know the answer, but in your opinion, can you see this ever being reeled in?
Yeah, I'll read. So this is from my conclusion, but I'm going to read it because it's the way that I articulated it. But I think the appropriate response so far is going to be to AI-enabled surveillance system is going to be simultaneous intervention, federal legislation to minimum standards of ALPR data collection, retention, sharing, mandatory warrant requirements for accessing historical data, prohibition on third-party data enrichment of government surveillance databases, independent security auditing requirements for contracted surveillance infrastructure, and meaningful public disclosure mechanisms that cannot be contractually suppressed by the surveillance vendor. And without that, the liability is basically it's too much. And I think that I think it starts small, and people are going to have to educate themselves first and start pushing back. I do not think it will ever go away. And I don't think there's going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. And if it continues down that path, what the appropriate level of response is still yet to be seen. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it, is that I don't have the answer, but I do think it's gonna it takes multiple people, and it's not going to be a one-man stand against the government, quote unquote. You've got to build community with it.
Yeah. That's what it always comes down to, gang.
Yeah, it's funny how since the beginning for like the last 6 years or whatever, it always comes back to the same fucking thing.
You gotta talk to people. Sorry, you gotta leave the basement.
Yeah, and on that too, like you got to touch grass too. Like I told the guys this before we started, but I had to put this project down several times and take a couple days of like, I'm gonna go fish or I'm gonna go just on a walk. I cannot live in this 24/7.
No.
And you can't even when it becomes a real issue, because if you do, you lose the goodness in life too. And everyone, you need to be informed, but you also need to live, and that is something that I am myself trying to balance. And it just, I mean, I'm learning day by day how to do that.
Yeah, likewise. No, it's a struggle. There's so much life to live, and there's so much to protect that life from, and it's a crazy balance. But if we go all one way, like you end up being like pissing yourself in a basement from the many endless horrors that come our way, and you go too far the other way, you are completely oblivious and exactly where they want you to be. So,
and you become part of the problem.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, don't have all the answers, but don't duck away from this stuff, guys. Like, learn about it. Figure out how you can counteract to the best of your abilities where you are. Some of these states,
I don't know how. Sorry.
Oh no.
I don't know how well these work, and I may just be do your own research. I am not paid by these people. I just saw an ad recently, and I thought it was kind of cool. Vader glasses, VAYDR, supposedly block the infrared light that will penetrate through most glasses for facial recognition. I'm thinking of picking up a pair. I no knowledge, like this company does not know about us at all. This is not an ad. Like no, we have no affiliation whatsoever. But I think methods of countering surveillance just for your privacy are pretty cool, and I think it's really cool to see these emergent technologies. Whether it works or not, like it might just be fish oil, but I think the idea of stuff to block facial recognition and algorithms that you can just wear and it doesn't look like anything is really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look into. And on that too, I think this is the right time to talk about hands-on resources, things that what are tangible things you can do. So like we talked about them, but have I been flocked? Right, that website aggregates audit logs. You can look at FOIA requests. Like it's a good way to search these kind of things if you've been hit by the cameras, which you probably have. But it's incomplete, and just be aware of that. Deflock, that's kind of the big, here's all the cameras, here's where they are. There are now some mobile apps out there, Vantage and some others by Jacob Knight, and these are kind of the same idea, but you download it. There is a small fee to his, at least, because he's like a one guy doing it, but it's where are they near me when I'm driving. Flock Hopper gives you turn-by-turn directions that route you around these kind of things. And all of this stuff is open source. None of it's proprietary in a sense, but yeah, like you just said, be aware of tools and the resources out there, and share them with your circles of people.
Yeah.
I'm now looking up if I've been flocked. Anyway, I could do that on my own time. I'm sure I have. But yeah, Brandon, thank you so much for all the work you do on these things.
Yes, thank you. Seriously, your document was amazing.
Yeah, happy to get it out there and let people read through it.
Yeah,
and I would hope that people take this and they use it as a springboard. And it's easy and digestible, and non-technical in nature, so that people understand it. So
yeah, I've had it open in front of me this entire time, and I really, really want to push whoever's listening to this right now to give it a once over. Sorry, PR, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no! I mean, share it with your group, share it with your people. Yeah, we'll have that available for dissemination in the description, and I'm sure we'll have Brandon on again for some
yes,
some other deep dive into hopefully something a little less
lighter,
dark.
Yeah, hopefully a lighter topic.
The OGL topic just seems like a giggle at this point.
Honestly, I kind of was thinking about that. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. Like, dang, that was fun. This sucks.
Yeah, that was light. That was just slapping the industry big boys on the wrist for not disclosing where they make stuff. This is like, whew, this is civilization challenging shit.
Yeah. I think, and I hate to like take credit for it for all three of us, and but EOTech very shortly after that did a 180, which I kind of love. I got
that they did. I wasn't gonna bring it up on this at least, but I did see that. It was very cool to see like that.
Yeah,
good on them. They
dropped their prices considerably.
Yeah, and they realized, hey, we made a mistake. They owned up to it. I was very impressed. I did not see that coming, and I was very shocked when that happened. And not to say that, we did it, but like, I'm sure there was a meeting or two on it. So,
I hope so. Did they change the country of origin?
Probably not. Probably not, but they did at least say it in a video. It was kind of funny though to see that like EOTech's assembly line is generally older individuals. That's not something I really expected to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was cool the way that they went about it. It should have happened in the first place, but yeah, good on them for attempting to make it right. And I think where they sit now is much more indicative of where they're at.
Yes.
Yep. And I mean, just goes to show, even on like, sure, that's like a gun industry wide issue. That's not like civilization facing, but when we have these discussions, and obviously not just us, people in the community at large, you can affect change. You can get the attention of bigger entities. So with that in mind, hopefully people take this all on flock and mass surveillance far beyond art and war into your various circles, and we start to see impact. Obviously, it's not just us talking about this. Plenty of people are starting to realize where this kind of technocracy nightmare we're all kind of waking up to, and we can push back on it.
Yeah, it is the gayest and most retarded surveillance state.
Yeah, we're thanks to civil disobedience and people doing their own thing, we're not all on our, like, what would be 25th booster shot,
Yeah.
So, anyway, Brandon, anything else you want to hit the people with before we get out of here?
Man, go touch some grass. Like,
hell yeah.
Don't forget to live, and enjoy life. Remember to slow down, because you're the only person that's actually responsible for doing that, and no one's going to tell you to do it unless you're married and your spouse is really good about keeping you in line with that. But just don't forget to live, and enjoy the small things. Go out, find a hobby outside of firearms. Like that for a long time, I didn't have something like that, and I'm starting to get into that, and that I think it's made me a healthier and a better person overall. So talk to your people, eat dinner with friends, but also be informed.
Yes.
I
agree.
That was some sick house dad advice.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, Nathan, you got anything else?
What was the site again? It was like bigasslasers.com. Let me check my DuckDuckGo. Where do civil disobedience accordingly. Do take all the right methods, and if you did do anything silly, don't be fucking stupid about it. Remember, like, we do live in a surveillance state. sanwoolasers.com. There's the other one. There's some OPSEC is king. Maybe don't do this. This is like the final resort. That's all.
All right. I love that as a ending note. So
biglaserpointers.com. There we go.
Beautiful. Don't point them at aircraft. That's like a dickhead thing to do.
Oh yeah, the FCC will fuck you, and also don't be an asshole. Like that is just an asshole thing to do.
Dude, they will track you so quick. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the videos of that, but like, oh yeah, I've got some dickhead pointing a laser at me, and then they like locate them within minutes.
Yeah. I remember seeing that at a big soccer game of all things, or football, or whatever Mitch wants to call it, footy. Like one of the, I think it was like the goalie or something. This green laser was going all across him, and then the camera person who was operating the big camera actually caught it. The person with the laser pointer.
I saw that.
Yeah, there's some girl. But she ended up being politically connected, so she got out of it.
Nathan with a random context on a viral video.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, no, not even joking. She was like the daughter of a politician. Nothing ended up happening to her.
Many such cases. Well, on that odd note, once again, thank you, Brandon, so much. His document will be in the description. And until next time.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.